Welcome back to Inspiring Builds. Do you have a table saw and looking for a simple jig to make tapered cuts or rip straight lines on rough cut lumber without the need of a joiner to straighten an edge? This Rockler straight line jig doubles as both and will make cuts quickly, easily, and accurately at your table saw. I'm Dan, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to assemble and use this jig as the instructions are a bit unclear. Even though the instructions say to attach the miter bar to the bottom of the base, it comes already attached. On many saws such as my last one, the miter slot is close to the blue tape. If cutting the zero clearance leaving the miter bar installed how it was shipped, it would take off too much material and possibly ruin the jig. The 3 screws can be removed and miter bar installed using this set of mounting holes on the left, cutting off the least amount of material during the initial zero clearance cut. Many people don't realize the miter bar can be moved over, and you want to avoid cutting too much off the jig when doing the zero clearance cut, risking ruining the jig. I'm hoping this video will provide an extra measure of confidence. If it does, please let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. On this specific saw, the miter slot is too far away to do a zero clearance cut regardless of which set of mounting holes the miter bar is installed in. I will show you my solution so this jig can be used to its full potential. This jig comes with a base and 36-inch miter bar attached that adjusts for a perfect fit in a standard 3/4 inch by 3/8 inch miter slot, an adjustable fence with an adjustable stop, a tapered ergonomic handle for easy operation, 2 aluminum hold-down clamps with rubber sleeves to protect your workpiece from marring, 4 5-star knobs, a tape measure for the top and bottom of the base, abrasive strips for extra holding power, hardware, and a mini screwdriver to make adjustments. Confirm that the saw blade is parallel with the miter slot. I have a video specifically on setting up a table saw before use that I will queue up at the end of this video if you missed it. The miter bar comes pre-assembled in the set of mounting holes in the far right. You want to install the screws in the mounting holes that will result in cutting off the least amount of stock during the initial zero clearance cut. I had to find a solution as the blade was 1 1/4 inches away with the screws in the far right mounting holes. I measured 1 3/8 inch with the goal of removing an 1/8 inch of stock when making the zero clearance cut. My solution was adding a third set of mounting holes measuring 1 3/8 inch over and keeping the holes consistent with the others. I clamped down the miter bar to ensure the holes were aligned and that the new mounting holes would work. A 1/2 inch Forstner bit was close to the same size as the stock mounting holes and slightly larger than the mounting screws. I drilled down far enough that the head of the screw would countersink in the material. A shop vac makes cleanup quick and easy. Repeat the same process for the last 2. I tested a couple of different drill bits and found that a 1/4 inch drill bit worked best for enough clearance, but still pretty snug for the screw. To avoid tear out, I slid scrap lumber under the jig, drilled all the way through, and used a shop vac again for cleanup. You can see here the new hole matches the other 2 stock ones and is nice and clean with 0 tear out. Repeat the same process for the last 2 holes, and the mounting holes will look like this on the bottom and top. Put the miter bar in the miter slot and line up the mounting holes that will yield the least amount of stock being removed during the zero clearance cut. With my saw having a miter slot that was greater than 5 5/8 inch away from the blade, I had to create a third set of mounting holes. Attach the base of the jig to the miter bar using the 3 3/4 inch provided screws. Ensure the jig slides smoothly and test to ensure the screws are countersunk in far enough. Once the miter bar is installed, I can see that I now have enough material to the left of the blade to perform a zero clearance cut. This hole is for the tapered knob. Insert the 1 inch screw from underneath the base. I thought I had enough clearance but was just shy with my new mounting hole, so had to remove the miter bar to install the 1 inch screw. Flip over the base and install the washer and tapered knob. Hand tighten and then flip it over with one hand on the tapered knob and use your other hand to fully tighten with a Phillips screwdriver. Reinstall the miter bar, and as you can see it was a tight fit but will work out as the tapered knob never needs to be removed. With the saw blade lowered down, check that the jig slides freely in the miter track, but it's important to note that you do not want too much play as shown here. The miter bar has black nylon set screws pre-installed that can be adjusted. Note, Do not mess with the silver mounting screws on the bottom. Use the included mini screwdriver to adjust the nylon set screws. It may take multiple times making adjustments as you want to ensure the jig slides freely in the miter track, but does not have a lot of play. Raise the blade 1/8 inch above the base of the jig. Pull the jig back so that it is clear of the cutting area and then advance it past the blade to trim the base to establish the zero clearance cut. The directions state that trimming may not occur on some saws due to the distance between the blade and miter slot, but I showed how to make this happen to fully utilize the jig. I'm satisfied with this cut and was able to remove 1/8 inch of material as planned. Do a dry fit with the self-adhesive tape measures. After doing the zero clearance cut, the width was just a little over 7.5 inches. I cut the tape measures at the 0 mark and 7.5 inch mark. Peel off the backing and align the 0 on the tape measures with the zero clearance edge. Apply pressure once positioned where you want. Repeat the process for the tape at the top of the base. The stock photo shows the abrasive strips installed here. However, personally I think they can be spaced out and it looks much better to cover the mounting holes not being used. I did have to trim about 1/8 inch of material off the strips to have clearance to be able to remove the miter bar screws when needed. Peel off the backing and position the abrasive strips off of the zero clearance edge of the base. I quickly found out these are super sticky, and after the first strip I installed, I only removed a portion of the backing at a time. Repeat the process for the second and third abrasive strips. Attach the 2 hold-down clamps to the adjustable fence. The longer 2.5 inch T-bolts will go through the fence slot from underneath. Take your time to ensure the T-bolts are installed correctly so that they are inside the slot. Install the hold-down clamps, a washer, and lastly a 5-star knob. We're now in the home stretch so we can put this jig to use and test it out. To attach the adjustable fence to the base, insert the 1.5 inch T-bolt on each end of the base. Take your time as the bolt needs to go through the slot in the base the same as the slot in the fence. Install the fence, a washer, and lastly a 5-star knob. The fence should move freely when the 5-star knobs are not tightened down. Leave the miter bar installed when using the jig to cut tapers. There are several options to set the taper angle. Use the indexing marks at both ends of the jig to set the degree of taper. For example, when counting 4 marks over from the left front of the jig and 2 marks over from the rear of the jig, you will cut a 2-degree taper. The tape measures can also be used to set the beginning and ending widths of the taper. Lastly, you can align the marks on your stock with the zero clearance edge of the jig. Place the stock tight against the adjustable fence with the end that will soon be the narrow end flush against the adjustable stop at the end of the fence. Position the adjustable stop so that it will support the stock but won't come in contact with the saw blade during the cut and fasten it down. Space the hold-down clamps proportionally along the workpiece and position them so that they will not come in contact with the saw blade, guard, or riving knife during the cut. Return the jig to the starting position. Raise the blade 1/8 inch above the workpiece and carefully make the cut. Here is an example of making a taper cut using the tape measures we installed earlier to set the beginning and ending widths of the taper. Turn the 5-star knobs to tighten down the hold-down clamps to secure the workpiece. With the saw turned off, you can lower the blade and do a practice cut if needed by using the tapered knob to move the jig forward and then make any needed adjustments. Return the jig to the starting position. Raise the blade 1/8 inch above the workpiece and carefully make the cut. Cutting angles on small panels safely and accurately can be challenging, but not anymore. Simply align the cut line with the miter slot as shown. Clamp down the panel, set the saw's rip fence, and raise the blade to get a perfect cut. Here is a piece of rough cut lumber that we're going to use the tapering straight line jig to cut a perfect clean edge without the need of a joiner. Remove the miter bar from the base of the jig. You will use the table saw's fence to set the cutting width and guide the cut. Position the jig's adjustable fence so it's parallel to the edge of the jig and tighten the 5-star knobs. Set the saw's rip fence to guide the cut where needed. Space the hold-down clamps proportionally along the workpiece and position them so that they will not come into contact with the saw blade guard or riving knife during the cut. Tighten the 5-star knobs to tighten the hold-down clamps and secure the workpiece. Position the jig so the long edge is tight against the table saw's fence and make the cut. Take your time and keep the jig tight against the fence as you feed the workpiece into the blade. I unfortunately missed filming this cut, but you can see it made a perfect clean edge. Flip the board, remove the jig, and rip the opposing edge so it's parallel with the first one. This jig will add safety, accuracy, and efficiency to your shop, expanding the range of projects you can take on. I will provide a link to this jig below. Building your own is another option, but may still cost upwards of $60. I'm not sponsored, but for a little bit more, this jig is well worth it. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, I have a playlist of table saw and DIY videos queued up for you in the corner that you'd probably like as well. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like, comment, share, and hit that notification bell so you can get notified when I release new videos.